Today's video might just save your golf game. I am taking you through a complete rotation guide focusing on the downswing that is going to transform your game. Now, we're going to kickstart this video by looking at the 5 most common root causes as to why you cannot rotate. Now, here's the hard truth. If any of these are out of position, you've got no chance of rotating. But here's the thing, I'm going to show you how to fix every single one of them. Then once we've done that, we are going to dive into, okay, once those are fixed, how do we actually rotate? This is going to be your complete rotation guide. I'm going to put everything down in the timestamps. I know there's going to be a lot of information, but go through this at your own pace. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the video with the 5 most common root causes why you cannot rotate.
Let's jump into variable number 1, which is posture. And this is by far the most common one that I see amateurs get wrong every single day on the lesson tee. So what do I tend to see? Well, if I bring in the downline view, you'll often see amateurs get their weight either too far into their toes or too far into their heels. From there, you'll often see them with too much knee bend, the glutes are too far behind them, maybe a little bit of arch to the lower back, and from here it becomes very, very difficult to actually turn. So what you'll tend to find is players will either stand up in the backswing or they'll maintain posture in the backswing and then sort of early extend in the downswing, again, just in an effort to try and save them from this bad posture. Also, if you're a golfer who struggles with back pain, this is the part that you need. Now, what are we looking to see? Well, instead of just showing you the checkpoints, why don't I just give you a drill that covers everything? So what I want you to do is grip the club, stand nice and tall for me, and just have the weight so it is even between your toes and your heels. A good little exercise is just to rock back and forth between toes, heels, and then find that middle ground. Then from there, standing nice and tall, lower your arms down to you feel that connection with the edge of your chest and inner part of your arms. Gently soften your legs, and then from there just round forwards until the club touches the ground. Now notice I did say the word round. I'm not looking for you to suddenly have this perfectly straight back. Yes, you see the tour pros do it, but it's very hard to do. You know, we're not all as athletic as Adam Scott or Rory. Frankly, if you're sitting down every single day in a chair, your mobility is going to tighten up, so it's a far easier posture to do. So stand tall, lower arms, weight 50-50, soften legs, round forwards, boom, there's your golf posture. Now wherever the club head is where the ball is going to go, and from there it is now going to be so much easier for you to turn and turn. You'll notice my pelvis feels a lot more underneath me. I feel a lot taller with maybe a little bit around to the upper back, nothing too crazy, and a nice flat neutral lower back, and from there it's going to be a lot easier for me to actually turn and turn. Now, variable number 2 is club face, and club face plays a huge role in how our body is going to react in the golf swing. Now, by far, obviously the most common issue I see is people have an open club face, and this makes it very, very difficult to rotate. Now, firstly, why is this? Well, rotation in itself will promote shaft lean, which is fantastic, exactly what we want to see. However, shaft lean is technically an opener of the club face. This is why, if you look at players out on tour, look at Dustin Johnson, by far has one of the most closed club face because he bows that wrist so much. He is also one of the golfers that rotates arguably the most in the downswing. So his hips are crazy, crazy open. And it's because rotation provides shaft lean, which can open up or square up a closed club face. Now, when you see players with an open club face, they'll do one of 2 reactions. They'll get to the top, very open face. They'll either throw their angles out here, in which case this is a squaring mechanism. And again, you cannot rotate from this position. Or number 2 is they'll go to the top, open club face, and then from there, the second squaring mechanism is going to be when they throw over the top, they swing this way, and now from here they're working very steep out to in. Again, going to be very, very difficult to rotate, and also you'll see them exit very sort of narrow chicken wing on the way through. So again, club face is vitally important. Now, how can we fix this? Rather than looking at, say, a perfect grip, which there's no such thing as a perfect grip, look at your club face relative to where your grip is right now. So, for example, if you are a golfer who looks at your swing and you go, my club face is way open, and then you see either your left hand or your right hand, for a right-handed golfer, is rotated excessively round to my left as the golfer, so the V's are pointing somewhere up to the left ear, left shoulder, you know that this is what we class as a weaker grip. If I relax my arms, you can see how that's going to promote an open club face. So if you look at that and you go, maybe both hands are rotated around, one hand or the other hand's rotated around, you know that this is going to promote an open club face. So if you are that golfer, you need to strengthen the hand that's in a weakened position. Now let me do it case by case. Let's say you look at your left hand, it's weak, right hand strong. Well, in that case, you need to strengthen your left hand round so the V points up to the right shoulder. Let's say your case number 2, left hand's good, but then the right hand is all the way over here. Well, in this situation, you need to strengthen your right hand to get it back into a better position. Or case number 3, you need to strengthen both your hands because they're both wrapped over, in which case strengthen both round. And again, you will now see that that actually promotes a little bit more of a closed club face position. So don't see the grip as a perfect thing. Frankly, look out on tour. There are thousands of different types of grips. So it's a tool that needs to be matched up with what you naturally do. So I've changed that grip. It's now, I'll go a little bit extra stronger. So very, very strong for me right there. You can see as I turn back, that promotes a closed club face, closed club face. Ooh, this is going to force me to rotate a hell of a lot more. So let me give it a go for me right here. So we are moving through these at a very fast rate. So now let's move on to variable number 3, which is width. Now width in its most simple form is how far away from the chest are the hands. Are they narrow? Are they far? How far away are they? Now, I tend to find most golfers are on the narrow side. This is where they get very armsy or they collapse down. You see a chicken wing on the way through, but essentially their backswing will look something along the lines of this at the top. Now, from this position, the body is always going to react and throw. As soon as it throws, think about it this way. My club head is now widening, kind of like fishing, it's widening away from the body. So also what tends to happen when we do this is that we also tend to stand up. This is so we can give ourselves a chance of controlling our low point. So what are we looking to see? Well, I want you to feel like, especially in the backswing, that imagine there's a piece of string going from your chest to your hands. I want you to imagine that you keep that piece of string nice and tight throughout the whole backswing. So you can see it's nice and wide there. Then as you start down, this is going to give you the right amount of space to actually shallow the club. And then from there, you're also going to be able to have that nice width on the way through again, where the piece of string and the hands is nice and tight. If at any point that piece of string sort of slackens, you know that you're in a position to where you've narrowed up and you've collapsed the arms. Now, let me give you an actual drill that's going to help you with this. Okay, so here is the drill. All you need is an elastic band. You can buy these off Amazon, anywhere like that. Again, super cheap, but fantastic training aid. Grab that band, place it behind your back, and then from there, just sort of grip it as if you're taking like a grip on a golf club. Now, from there, if you narrow up in the backswing, you're going to be doing what the band wants you. So again, the more I stretch my arms away, you can see how that puts tension on the band. So the band is going to want to pull my arms in. Now, obviously, we don't want that to happen. So this is where we're sort of using the tension of the band as a bit of resistance training to help us learn this movement faster. So I've just got it looped around my back. And then from there, I'm going to feel like as I turn back, I keep the tension in the band as I turn. That's going to give me great width. And then from there, I'm going to have the space to be able to shallow that club out on the way down. So wide on the way back, wide on the way through. And if I now actually grip a golf club with these bands just on top, you can see as I do this how much width I'm able to generate. If I then just shift, you see how that club's shallowed out? Now from there, I will be able to turn pretty easily and also maintain great width on the way through. So this is a fantastic drill. Once you do that a couple times, then just hit sort of a 3/4 shot just to get used to this movement. Straight away as I do a rehearsal swing, my arms sort of feel a little bit kind of like jelly, as if there's nothing resisting it. It feels so much easier to get that width, and it's going to help you shallow that club naturally. Let me hit a shot for you right here, kind of a bit more of a 3/4 one. I feel like now I've got that great sensation of width, and I'm going to be able to rotate a lot more freely. So variable number 4 is depth. Now firstly, what is depth? Well, depth is at the top of the backswing. Where is the butt end of the grip relative to the feet? Now we want to be seeing most golfers be around the heel line. And the reason for this is as you shift and start to rotate down, the hands will naturally sort of work on this slight diagonal path. However, we see, or I see, most amateurs get into a position at the top of the backswing where their hands are very high. Now, the first thing I must say is there are golfers out there, Victor Hovland, Justin Thomas, two that come to mind straight away, that have their hands very high, but yet they're still able to shallow the club, rotate, do all of these things. And that's because they have other matchups like right side bend that allow them to do this. Most amateurs don't have these matchups, so it's easier just to change the depth element of it. So what you tend to find is as they go to the top, they get into a position hands are very, very high. Now from there, as they shift and start to rotate, club works out and over the top. The only way they can then start to make some sort of solid contact is by early extending, secondary tilting. Cannot rotate from that position, very, very tricky to control. So what do we want to see? We want to increase the depth. The main one that I really see that causes a lot of issues is the rotation aspect. So they freeze this right hip, this trail hip. So what I want you to do is learn what it feels like to actually turn this trail hip back and around. So from the front on view, you can see that I've created a little bit of space from where that hip has actually started. So by doing this, I am able to then generate more rotation, which is allowing my arms to go deeper. Now here's the thing, rotation and depth are directly related, and it's not necessarily about maxing out your rotation. It's not about that at all. It's actually just about having good rotation. So just solid fundamentals where you're rotating in the right position. I know a lot of the people that are watching this are sort of senior golfers who don't have the same flexibility as myself. You know, I'm 26. So I understand that not everyone can turn the same amount. So it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And that's the key thing to know. So what I want you to do is just stand tall and just turn for me. As you turn, feel where your trail hip is working, and you'll feel it work sort of back and around. Once you've done that a couple times, then keep the club up here, get into your golf posture, and just try and recreate that same feeling of turning that trail hip sort of back around, but now because we're bent forwards, also slightly up. So you'll see that as I turn, my pelvis sort of turns on a slight tilt. So you can go back and around and slightly up. Do that again, back and around and slightly up. You can see how it's quite easy for me to turn to 45 degrees. If you can turn to 40 degrees or 30 degrees, fantastic, do that. So you can see I'm just turning this hip back and around and slightly up. Once you've done that a couple times, grab your club and then just try and recreate that motion. Just focus on your trail hip, back and around and up. And you will see, if you look from the downline view, how my arms are naturally very, very deep. Do that one last time. All I'm focusing on is turning this trail hip back and around and up, and you can see downline view naturally got great depth. What also will help is what I just went through, which is that elastic band drill, having that good width. That's going to work wonders for adding depth as well, so be sure to use that. That one's kind of like a double whammy right there. So set up to the ball, all I'm focusing on is turning my trail hip back and around, creating that little bit of space, and the depth should take care of itself, and then I should be able to rotate through the shot freely. So here we are, variable number 5. The last variable in this video is shaft pitch in transition. What do I mean by that? Well, I often see so many golfers, they get into a position, they get all the way to the top, good point, and then they go whoop, and they steepen the shaft. When you steepen the shaft now from there, you have to do some form of secondary tilt, early extension, everything that we've discussed so far. Cannot rotate from that position. So, what are we looking to see? From the downline view, if I was to draw a line down the shaft at the top of the backswing, the first couple of frames in the downswing, I want to see that the shaft works behind me, so off that line to the right. Go to the top, pause, draw the line, shaft works behind me that way. If I can do that, that's going to set me up in a position to where the shaft is shallow at what we class as left arm parallel in the downswing. I can then just rotate all the way through, and all the work is sort of done by this left arm parallel in the downswing. If we can get to that point, everything's then just about turning as hard as you want. So there are loads of different ways of shallowing the clubs. You could do it with your wrist conditions, you could do it with your forearms, you could do it through different pivot matchups, you could do it through your arms, your elbows, everything. You can do it through loads of different stuff, tilts. But today I'm going to just give you a very simple drill that's going to help you in this position feel this sort of shallowing motion. So what I want you to do is grip the club with your left hand. Right hand's just going to go next to it, about a golf ball, so a golf ball and a half width away from the club. As you turn to the top, get it into that good position, and then as you start down, let that club just fall into your trail hand. So you're here to the top, let the club fall into the trail hand. Here to the top, as you start down, let the club fall into the trail hand. And what you'll feel is if I hold my left thumb up, you'll feel sort of this motion, so the arm twisting inwards as you do it. This is again a great way of actually shallowing the club in transition. If I now do it with just both hands on, you can see this is the motion that I'm trying to feel. That club dropping behind me, as I then turn. This is going to allow you to then freely rotate all the way through impact, giving you that great impact conditions, give you that great rotation, and ultimately giving you that great golf shot. So I'm just going to do that drill once, hand separate to the top, allow that club to then fall into the hand, turn through. If I do it now with two hands to the top, allow it to fall behind me, turn through. Now if I hit it, feel that club fall behind me.
So those were the 5 most common root causes as to why you cannot rotate. Now that we've fixed those and now that they're in a great position, let's now dive into how to actually train this great rotation, this great shallowing in the downswing.
So here's the thing, rotation is actually a variable that changes from golfer to golfer, and there are different factors in play. Your swing structure, your matchups, your flexibility levels. So what is the right position for you? Well, I'm going to give you a simple exercise that you can do right now to find your perfect impact position. Now, just for visual purposes, what I want you to do is grab an alignment stick and place it through your belt loops. Now, this is going to highlight how much hip rotation we have. From there, set up in your normal iron or driver, whichever club you want to do in this impact drill. Now, from here, you want to bump your hips so that your left hip or your lead hip is dead over your ankle joint. Now, keeping it over your ankle joint and keeping your head in the same position, I want you to turn your hip back so that it goes as far as it can to where it starts to feel like you're at the end of your range. And that's going to show you how much hip rotation you can realistically have. Now, if you are let's just say more of a senior golfer who doesn't have that same ability, and when you do this exercise, hip goes there and you only turn to about there, that is absolutely fine. That is all you are trying to achieve then in terms of rotation. There is no point you looking at Tommy Fleetwood, all of these guys out there and trying to go, I want the same amount of rotation as them, because you're not going to be able to achieve it as this drill has shown. Now, a couple of things to make sure that you don't fall into as you're doing this drill. Don't overly push your hips towards the target to where the lead hip is now outside of the ankle joint. And also, as you're doing this, don't cheat it. And there are 2 ways of cheating it. A, bringing the lead hip backwards. So you see how it's now not over the ankle joint or in line with the ankle joint. Or B, don't do that and let your head go forwards. Remember, head needs to stay back. Ankle, the hip needs to stay over the ankle, and then you're going to push it back as it turns, and you can see my head is still there, and that's going to test the amount of flexibility you have.
So let's now jump into how to actually rotate efficiently in the downswing. Now, here's the thing. As we are doing this, the best players in the world are amazing at creating separation between their lower body and their upper body. So today, the sort of way that we're going to talk about this is we're going to focus on lower body first, then we're going to talk about upper body, then we're going to bring it all together. I think this is going to be the simplest way so that it is manageable for the majority of golfers out there. So first of all, what is happening lower body? Well, there's sort of 2 main things that are happening. Number one, we will be seeing that there is a shift back to the lead leg. So you will see that the pelvis will shift about 4 to 6 inches back towards the target. Now, there's a couple of things to note about this. Number one, as we are doing this, we start to shift actually before we finish the backswing. Number two, as we are shifting so that we can get the lead hip back over the lead ankle as soon as possible in the downswing. So roughly around left arm parallel in the downswing, we will see the lead hip is back over the lead ankle. And this puts us in a position to where we can really start to push out of the ground, generate great ground reaction forces, great rotation, all of these other things. And number three is this helps shift our mass back towards the lead side, which in turn allows us to move our low point further forward so we get a ball and then ground contact. So that's the shifting part. As this is going on, the pelvis is starting to rotate and it is also maintaining hip depth. Let's talk about those 2 things. So as we go to the top, if we draw a line down the back edge of my butt from the downline view, we will start to see the left hip or the lead hip start to open as soon as possible in the downswing. Reason being is because think about it this way. If we are, let's say, 45 degrees turned in the backswing with the pelvis, we are trying to get back to at least 30 degrees open or so, depending on flexibility levels in the downswing at impact. So we've got to turn 75 degrees in a movement that takes about 0.3 of a second. So we do not have time to shift and then turn. we have to blend the two motions together. So the lead hip is going to start to rotate open as fast as possible. Now, the second thing is we are maintaining great hip depth. What do we see with so many golfers? Early extension, and that is where the hips, whoop, they come towards the target just like that. So what we want to be seeing is, again, imagine I've drawn a line down the back edge of my butt. As we go to the top, the right hip is connected to it. As we start down, the right hip wants to stay connected to that line as the left hip pushes back as it starts to open, and therefore now both of my butt cheeks are connected to the line right there. They're both back. Now, once this left butt cheek has connected, we'll also hopefully see that the lead hip is over the lead ankle. From this point, we can then start to push out of the ground. The right hip will come forward as the left hip goes back, and that's what creates the rotation. So AKA at the top of the backswing, right butt cheek is touching the line. At about left arm parallel, both butt cheeks are touching the line. At impact, left butt cheek is touching the line, right butt cheek is off. So you can see we are keeping the hips deep, and we're also turning them as fast as possible. And as we are doing this motion, we will be seeing a push into the right foot, into the ball of the right foot. Hips are also sort of squatting backwards. This is why you see a lot of players lose a little bit of height in transition as they do this, and then they start to push it back this way. And again, we're going to dive into some drills that are going to really help you with this in a second. But let's now talk about the upper body. So the upper body plays a crucial role in how the club is actually going to come down. Is it going to come down on, under, or over the plane line? So what I see so many golfers do in an effort when they try and rotate is they rotate everything. So their chest, their pelvis, everything rotates together, and they don't create any what we class as separation. We want to be seeing that as you start down, the chest stays pointing back towards the camera in the downline view, as you have that little weight shift and the hips are starting to open. So we have to create this little bit of separation between the chest and the pelvis. And this is crucial. This is what all the best players in the world do. And this is something a lot of amateurs do struggle with. And it's not necessarily an alien move, because if you think about it, if I'm throwing a ball, as I step, my chest is still closed, my hips have started to open, and then everything turns through together later down the line. So it's not necessarily an alien move. It's just a little bit sort of strange at first when you're learning how to do it in the golf swing. So as the chest is staying passive, this is what gives the club time to shallow onto plane, and it also allows the right shoulder to start to drop into what we class as right bend. So side bends this way. So if I just grab the club, drop my right shoulder down, that is side bend. So as you can see, the upper body is very much sort of delayed in what it does. It kicks into rotation later down the line. So it stays delayed in transition. Now roughly around hip high, waist high, it's going to kick in and really start to rotate through. So this is why everyone talks about the lower body leading the motion. It's the lower body that goes first, and then the chest and everything comes through later. If the chest starts the motion, you're going to want to swing over the top, which is not something that we want to be doing. We want to keep the chest passive in transition. We want to allow the club to shallow, and from there, we are going to see the best possible results. So now we know what the lower body's doing. Now we know what the upper body's doing. Now we've got to give you some drills that are going to bring this all together, because if we don't have great drills, we cannot learn this motion efficiently. So I have got 3 very specific drills for you. The first one's going to work on transition. The second one's going to bring all of it together, and the third one's going to be more of an impact training drill. So let's kick this off by looking at the first one, which is the wall drag drill. So what I want you to do is find a wall, flip your club over and grip it just below the club head, and stand anywhere from 1.5 feet to half a foot away from the wall, depending on body type and backswing structure. Just go to where it feels comfortable. Now for video purposes, I'm going to draw a line in the edit, imagining that's my wall. So I'm going to set up to where my golf ball would be. I've got the wall behind me back here. As I swing back, I'm going to go to the top, and I'm going to make sure I haven't touched the wall in the backswing. So at the top of my backswing, this club is off the wall this way. Now, as I start down, 2 things are going to happen. The first one is the club, as I start down, is going to go from not touching the wall to touching the wall. So it's going to shallow. This is crucial because this helps us with one of the variables we spoke about earlier, which is going to get us into this nice shallow position to where we can just turn. This is also starting the process of creating this separation. So to the top there, as that then happens, the left hip is going to start to unwind and open. So you're going to push into that as you get this lead hip opening. And you can see I've squatted down, my glutes are deep, and you can see this club is shallow in this position now.
Once it's in this position, continue to rotate, drag the club down the wall and all the way through. So again, to the top of backswing, opening your hips, drag it down the wall, boom, all the way through. And you can see how the club goes this way, hips are rotating open, chest is staying passive. That's how we blend everything together in the transition. Now let me actually hit a shot for you about 70% speed of me doing this. I've got an 8-iron here just for reference. I'm gonna go up, not touch the wall, open the left hip in transition, get the club touching the wall, and then slide it down all the way through as I continue to turn. Just like so, produced a nice little draw, and that is going to help you start to understand that the hips open straight away. As the club starts to shallow, this creates the separation in transition. So the second drill is one of my favorite drills, and it's called the Chopsticks Drill. Now this is an awesome drill because it is going to teach you how to sort of coordinate your lower body and your upper body. So grab 2 alignment sticks, place the first one through your belt loops just like so, and have it so you have sort of 2/3 of it sticking away from the target. Same thing with the one on your shoulders, have it all the way to the lead shoulder right there, and everything else sticking out behind the trail shoulder. Now what you're going to do is turn to the top of your backswing, and as you start down you are going to have that shift, feel the separation as your hips start to open, and turn all the way through so that you can hit the back of the alignment stick through your belt loops with the one on your shoulders. Now if you don't create the separation, you will go to the top and you will see this. You will not see the 2 alignment sticks clipped together. So we want to be seeing a good shift as the lead hip starts to open, hips are staying deep. As we then now turn through, you can see the right shoulder's dropping. This is adding this right bend, and you can see now I'm in a fantastic position. And you can do this at some speed as well. You can feel that good motion. So that is the Chopsticks Drill. Fantastic drill. It's going to help you map out the downswing, and from there you'll feel what it feels like to get good rotation and separation between the upper and lower body. So the final drill is going to help you learn this awesome impact position, because ultimately this is the position that we're working towards when we are trying to rotate. Now it is called the preset impact drill, and this very much relates back to the first exercise that I gave you where we measured how much your hips can rotate. So what I want you to do is set up to the golf ball normally. Now from there, achieve the same position that you did in that very first drill. So what you're going to do is set up here, bump your hips so that your lead hip is in line with your lead ankle, and then push it straight back whilst keeping your head in the same position. Now go as far as you can, because that is your maximum amount of rotation for your body type. As you do that, you might feel your right shoulder drop as well. Now from this position, this is your goal to get back to this point. We are actually going to turn from this point here. We're going to turn and try and return back to this position so you can feel that separation. Couple of things I see people do wrong when doing this drill. The first one is they'll get into this position and then they'll let their head go forwards. Do not do that. The second one is that they get into the good impact position, they'll turn back, and then as they come down, they'll stand up. So remember, a massive part of this is actually keeping the hips deep on the way back. So feel like you're pushing that left hip back and behind you this way in order to try and exaggerate this motion as much as possible. Remember, we need to use exaggerations to our advantage when doing this drill. So let me demo this drill for you here. Normal setup here. Again, got an 8-iron in my hands. From there, I am going to bump the left hip forwards, head staying in the same position, push it back to where it feels like I've got a good amount of hip rotation. Now from here, turn from this point and just clip it away. And you can see as I've done that, I've returned it back to a great position. I've got good width on the way through, nice solid contact, probably flew about 100 yards. And you can see from there, that is going to train what it feels like to get into that position. So there you have it. There is everything that you need to know about the rotation in the downswing. And I get it, there was a hell of a lot of information in there, but go through it at your own pace. Again, I'm going to put everything down in the timestamps so you can sort of skip to the sections that you need to come back to. And this will be your holy grail in terms of getting that effortless look in terms of rotation in the downswing. Now, if you still need a little bit more one-to-one help, I offer online coaching on the Skillist platform. You can have a lesson with myself no matter where you are in the world. Again, I'll put the link down below. If you have enjoyed today's video, please give it a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and I hope to see you back here soon.